Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I have my September book haul for you. I bought 11 books in the month of September, one of which I've already read. This is a pretty weird mix of books. I've already told you that September was a pretty weird mix of a month. And so I picked up things mostly when I saw them on sale, except for a Giles Kristian spending spree that I went on, and I'll tell you all about that and why. So let's just get into it. First, I picked up the book Jar of Hearts. This is by Jennifer Hillier. This is a book that I've had my eye on for quite a while, and it just so happened I found something that I really wanted to purchase, and this was also a really good price. So I went ahead and picked it up at the same time. This is the story of a friend group, Angela, Georgina, and Kaiser. And when they were young, Angela was killed. And come to find out, Georgina knew what had happened and kept the secret for 4 years, ended up going to prison. I'm guessing as an accessory or something. I'm not sure. And when she's released from prison, other people start being killed the same way that her friend Angela was killed when they were in high school. The third friend, Kaiser, is now a police detective, and this takes place in Seattle. And so I'm sure that the detective is going to play a role in finding out who is committing these copycat killings, basically. This is a pretty popular book across booktube. I've even heard some people say it's phenomenal. But other than that, I've just always thought that it looked good. Same sort of story. I also picked up The Right Swipe because I had an opportunity to get it at a really great price. This had been sitting on my Amazon wishlist for a while. This is the story of Rhiannon, who is a dating app creator, and she's mostly focused on her career until she has a short fling with a former pro football player named Samson. Now, Samson ends up ghosting her one day. She never knows why. And just when she's about over that whole thing, he resurfaces, and he's actually gone into business, or he's in the process of joining forces with one of Rhiannon's competitors. So he still is interested in her and wants her to trust him again, and she's reluctant, to say the least. This is obviously a contemporary romance by Alisha Ray, and I think it sounds cute. There's a lot of, not going to be able to see that, there's a lot of text, DM, email type formatted, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. It's funny to me how romance has changed, because I've been reading romance for 20 years, and it's just totally changed. The way that contemporary romance now incorporates contemporary technology and the methods in which we date and the methods in which we communicate, it's pretty interesting to see. Some of the earlier romances that I've read, they were contemporary for their time, but the characters didn't even have cell phones. And then they had cell phones, but there wasn't a lot of discussion about texting. People were still calling each other, and etc. And now we communicate primarily through text or DM, and incorporating that into a novel can be tricky. And I just think that it's interesting. I don't know. I just hit the camera. I probably messed you guys up. Next, I picked up The Dilemma. This is by B.A. Paris. This is something that I had an arc of and never got to, and I always feel pretty lousy about that, so I bought the book. Obviously, I was interested in the arc, and my failure has translated to a sale to the author. This is the story of a family unit, husband, wife, and daughter, who is studying abroad. And our husband, Adam, is throwing a 40th birthday party for his wife, Livy. And by all appearances, they have a pretty good relationship. But there's just one problem. Livy is hiding a big secret from Adam about their daughter. And she's glad that her daughter is studying abroad and it doesn't have to be addressed right away. Meanwhile, what Livy doesn't know is that Adam has invited their daughter and paid for the daughter to show up to Livy's party. And he also has a secret that he's dreading revealing to Livy. So it's a husband and wife, a partnership. They both have a secret that they're hesitant to reveal to the other, but time seems to be running out for both of them. It sounded interesting to me because it sounds like it all, I'm sorry if you can hear that train. This one sounded interesting to me because it sounds like it all revolves around this one party. I don't know how extensive the timeline for this book is, but I was drawn into that aspect of it. And I'm having read one B.A. Paris book prior to this, which I really liked, which was Behind Closed Doors. I'm interested to see just what the author does with this concept, basically. I also happened to pick up the 5th book in the Wayward Children series. This is Come Tumbling Down by Seanan McGuire. This, of course, is the series that deals with children from fairy tale worlds who have always been transported into an alternative or an alternate reality, and then what happens when they come back to the present or the reality that they know. This particular story is about a character named Jack who has a sister who has been murdered, and Jack is returning her to their childhood home. And it says, I mean, I haven't read any of the books in this series. That was one of my 2020 goals that, spoiler alert, I'm not going to achieve. Imagine that. But it says that death in their adopted world isn't always as permanent as it is here, and when Jack is herself carried back into the school, it becomes clear that something has happened to her, something terrible, something of which only the maddest of scientists could conceive. So this one sounds interesting, but a little bit more vague than the others. There are actually some other books that deal with fairy tale characters that you and I have heard of. So I'm unsure. Unless this is a Jack and Jill story where Jack happens to be a sister to Jill. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown and Jill came tumbling after. I mean, I'm unsure. Come tumbling down. It is Jack and Jill. Duh. Hello. I obviously wasn't paying much attention. I just purchased this because it is the 5th, and I only had books 1 through 4 up until this point, and so we're just going to pretend that that didn't happen. A little late to the game, but I did pick up Becoming by Michelle Obama. This book probably doesn't need much explanation. It is the autobiography or memoir of Michelle Obama, who is the former First Lady of the United States. And so many people have talked about this. So many people have loved it as narrative nonfiction. And it's made me just, quite frankly, curious about her life. It's made me curious about who Michelle Obama is. And she was an icon and a role model to a lot of people prior to the release of this book. But since this book has come out, it seems that she, has a lot of really big fans out there. I just want to know, more about Michelle Obama. I don't know. This next one was an anticipated read for me. I am shocked that Book of the Month did not offer it as a Book of the Month. I've seen it since as an add-on, but I had already picked this up. This is One by One by Ruth Ware. I think every other Ruth Ware book since In a Dark, Dark Wood has been offered as a Book of the Month, so I was pretty shocked. I was kind of counting on getting it that way, and then I bought it another way, and then they included it as an add-on anyway. This is a mystery where everyone is secluded in this chalet on a ski excursion. It's a ski chalet in the French Alps. Everyone being employees of this one company. An avalanche actually traps them at this location, and then conflicts and secrets, all of those dicey dynamics around working relationships start to heat things up inside. I don't know if somebody just ends up dead, but it does say the group dwindles further one by one. So maybe there's one person killing people, or maybe there's enough conflicts and it's enough of a tangled web that multiple people take the opportunity to get rid of their rivals or their enemies. I don't know. But one by one, the group gets smaller. And I mean, who hasn't really thought about what would happen if you and all of your coworkers were trapped in a place for an extended period of time? And, you know, I'd probably be the first one to go. I gotta be honest with you. Like, you know, not that I'm not lovely, because I'm a lovely person, but I'm a stickler for procedure. If you watch my channel on the regular, you will recognize this book. This is Lancelot by Giles Kristian. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I read it in the month of August, and as soon as I finished reading my paperback, I bought myself the hardcover because I love it so dearly. Look at that. This obviously is the story of Lancelot, the famous one, the famous Lancelot from the Legends of King Arthur. And if you haven't read it yet, I just don't know what you're doing with yourself. I mean, I know it's Arthurian fantasy or historical fantasy, depending on how you want to look at it. But this is one of the most emotionally powerful books that I've ever read. And it's phenomenal. And I just had to get myself that. I had to buy myself that. And so I also went ahead and picked up Camelot by Giles Kristian. This is the follow-up to Lancelot. This is the story of Lancelot's son, Galahad. So Galahad is the guy who searches for the Holy Grail, basically. He's orphaned at a young age, spoiler alert, and goes to a monastery, I believe, grows up in a monastery. And this one has wolves on the inside. I am both looking forward to this and dreading it because Lancelot was such an emotional experience and one that left me not okay for a little while, quite frankly. But if this is even half as good as Lancelot, then it's definitely worth my time. Since I was such a fan of Lancelot, I was interested in reading more from Giles Kristian, even though he writes completely outside of my genres of choice. But I went ahead and picked up one of his Viking series. So this is, I believe, is the second Viking series that he has written. Yes. Okay. And it starts with God of Vengeance. So this trilogy is all about a character named Sigurd, and he is the son of a murdered king, and he swears vengeance on those that killed his father. I don't know more about that. It's something that I'm totally willing to go into blind, but in order, the books are God of Vengeance, Winter's Fire, and Wings of the Storm, and they all follow the same character on his quest for vengeance. But they take place in Norway around 785 AD, and I know, I mean, it's shocking that I would even consider it, but I'm telling you, gosh, I promise you, that's how good Lancelot was. I've now become someone who reads historical fiction, fantasy fiction. Is this, I mean, Vikings existed, so I'm not sure you could really call this fantasy. This is probably more historical fiction, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, when I think of historical fiction, I think like maybe Civil War. Maybe that's how far back I think. 785 AD. That's a leap. That's a leap. But there's something about Vikings. I've never watched the show Vikings, although someone was kind enough to point out that there is a Skarsgård brother in the show Vikings, and I also really like How to Train Your Dragon. Neither of those things have anything to do with this book haul or the Giles Kristian books, but there you have it. Those are the books that I picked up in the month of September. Not a lot, and like I said, a really strange mix of books, but hopefully I will enjoy all of them. stick around and see. You might be here a while because it takes me a while to read books. But if you have any questions about the titles that I mentioned, or if you've read any of these and you want to tell me what you thought about them, do all that fun stuff in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon.